University Challenge. Asking the questions, Jeremy Paxman.
For a picture round, your picture starter is an outline map marked with the location of an airport named after a composer. For 10 points, I want the name of the composer and the city with which the airport is associated.
Keys Martinelli.
Is it Salzburg and Mozart?
It is, yes. For your bonus round, 3 more airports, all of which are named after well-known musicians or composers. Again, I want the name of the figure and the city the airport serves in each case. Firstly, for 5.
Is it Louis Armstrong? New Orleans? Louis Armstrong?
I think so.
We're going to go for Louis Armstrong and New Orleans.
That's correct. Secondly.
So that looks like it's somewhere around Milan.
Yeah.
And then it's a composer, so it could be Vivaldi Milan or any other Italian composers you can think of. Oh, yeah, it could be. No, it's not Luca, though. We're going to go Milan and Verdi.
No, it's Parma and Verdi. And finally...
That's in Poland, so it's going to be Chopin and... Is it Warsaw?
Yeah, Krakow's on the side.
So Warsaw and Chopin?
Correct. We're going to take a music round. You're going to hear for your music starter a piece of classical music by an Austrian composer. 10 points if you can identify the composer.
St Andrews Green.
Mozart?
No, anyone like to buzz from Birmingham? You can hear a little more.
Birmingham Sutherland.
Schubert.
No, it's Haydn. It's his Hungarian rondo. So, music bonuses in a moment or two. You heard in the music starter a moment ago one of Haydn's many piano trios, the conventional piano trio ensemble, which you just heard is piano, violin and cello. For your music bonuses, you're going to hear 3 works written for less common configurations of the piano trio. In each case, just identify the composer. Firstly, for 5, the German composer of this work, written for horn, violin and piano.
Bruckner or something like that. Fairly brooding.
It's a good guess.
Bruckner?
No, that's Brahms. Secondly, this is an early work by which German composer written for flute, bassoon and piano?
Sounds like
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? And they said Beethoven? Beethoven?
It is by Beethoven. Finally, the Central European composer of this work, written for clarinet, violin and piano.
So it's Central European, so it's going to be Liszt, Janacek or Chopin. One of those.
I think it's Janacek.
It's quite discordant, isn't it?
Janacek.
Janacek?
No, that's by Bela Bartok. Set of bonuses for you, St Edmunds. They are on birdsong in music. Born in 1908, which French composer and ornithologist is noted for incorporating birdsong into many of his compositions? Examples include Chronochromy and Catalogue d'Oiseaux.
Messiaen? Messiaen.
Messiaen.
Messiaen is correct. Described as a concerto for taped birdsong and orchestra, Cantus Arcticus is a 1972 work by which composer born in Helsinki in 1928?
Sibelius.
No, it's Rautavaara. First performed in 1808, which symphony includes a cadenza in which woodwind instruments are used to represent the calls of the nightingale, the quail and the cuckoo?
Beethoven.
Beethoven's... Which one? Come on.
Sixth Symphony.
Sixth Symphony.
Sixth is correct, yeah, the passport. Right, we're going to take a music round. For your music starter, you'll hear a well-known operatic overture. For 10 points, I want the title of the opera.
Carmen.
St Andrews Green.
Sorry, Carmen.
Carmen is correct, yes. Your music bonuses are 3 more classical works from outside the Iberian Peninsula, inspired nevertheless by Spanish folk melodies and dance forms. 5 points for each composer you can identify. Firstly, for 5, a Russian composer.
Nominate Green. Rimsky-Korsakov?
Correct. Secondly, another Russian composer.
Tchaikovsky?
No, that's Glinka. Finally, a French composer.
Ravel?
It is Ravel, yes. Your bonuses are on Benjamin Britten and the cinema. Firstly, for 5 points, set in an outpost of the French Foreign Legion, the 1999 film Beau Travail, directed by Claire Denis, uses music from which opera by Britten?
Death in Venice?
No, it's Billy Budd. Which film of 2012, directed by Wes Anderson, makes extensive use of Britain's music and has 2 protagonists, Sam and Susie, meet during a production of the children's opera Noise Flood?
Yes, that might be Moonrise Kingdom.
Moonrise Kingdom?
Correct. Which opera by Britten premiered in 1973, 2 years after the release of a film directed by Luchino Visconti and based on the same short novel?
Is that Death in Venice?
That is Death in Venice. We're going to take a music round. For your music starter, you'll hear an excerpt from an opera by a German composer. 10 points if you can identify the composer.
Bristol Rolliston.
Richard Strauss?
No. You can hear a little more corpus.
Corpus Christi Johnson.
Beethoven?
No, it's Engelbert Humperdinck. It's the evening prayer from Hansel and Gretel. So, music bonuses in a moment or two. So you get the music bonuses. You'll recall that we heard Hansel in Humperdinck's Hansel and Gretel. It is a trouser role or breeches role. That is a male character written to be played by a woman, en travesti. Your music bonuses are 3 more trouser roles in opera. 5 points if you can give me the composer of the work. Firstly, for 5, this German composer.
Sabadelio. It sounds Beethoven.
Beethoven?
No, that was Richard Strauss from Der Rosenkavalier. Secondly, this Italian.
Verdi?
No, that's Bellini from I Capuletti e Montecchi. And finally, this German-born composer.
German theory would make sense.
Yeah, sounds quite fitting. Handel?
It is Handel, yes. These bonuses are on Liturgical Music Manchester. From the Greek for return sound, what name is given in the Western Church to a short verse or sentence sung or recited by a choir in response to a psalm or other text?
It's diaphonic.
No, it's antiphon, an antiphon. The O antiphons are sung before which song of praise during Advent? It's the hymn sung by the Virgin Mary in St. Luke's Gospel.
We don't know.
That's the Magnificat. And finally, best known for his setting of the poem usually called Jerusalem, which composer wrote a Magnificat for Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee in 1897?
Hubert Parry. Hubert Parry.
Hubert Parry.
Hubert Parry is correct. Right, bonuses this time on symphonic music for you, Emmanuel College. Completed around 1858, Richard III is a symphonic poem by which composer, the founder of the Czech National School of Music?
Smetana.
Smetana is right. Premiered in 1888, what was the last of Tchaikovsky's symphonic poems based on Shakespeare and other literary sources?
So, who's it? Like Othello?
Other literary sources, so it would be something like... what other literary sources? I mean, like Consecrated Women, Julia. Midsummer Night's Dream doesn't come from anything else, though,
Yeah,
does it?
because there's a Lope de Vega.
So does it go from Midsummer Night's Dream? Midsummer Night's Dream?
No, it's Hamlet. Which German composer wrote Macbeth, an 1888 symphonic poem after Shakespeare's play? His other works in the genre include Don Quixote and Don Juan.
German, so there's Wagner.
What was the date?
1888, Wagner's...
I mean, it could be Wagner
Wagner
or
makes
Strauss.
sense.
But
I haven't heard of
I
these.
don't think it is Wagner.
it says Strauss.
Strauss, which
Yeah,
one?
Richard Strauss.
Say Richard.
Richard Strauss?
Richard Strauss is correct. Focuses this time on art and music, Bristol. Inspired by the paintings of Francisco Goya, the opera and piano suite known as the Goyescas are works by which composer, born in Catalonia in 1867? Let's have an answer, please.
We don't know.
It's Granados. Which Russian composer wrote the 1909 tone poem Isle of the Dead, based on a work of the same title by the Swiss artist Arnold Böcklin?
Rachmaninoff.
Correct. To begin to take a music round. For your music starter, you'll hear a piece of classical music by a German composer. For 10 points, simply identify the composer.
Bristol Rolliston.
Beethoven?
It is Beethoven, yes, his violin concerto in D major. It was his only violin concerto, which was identified by the 19th century violinist Joseph Joachim as one of the 4 great German violin concerti. For your music bonuses, you'll hear the other 3, and I want you to identify the composer of each. Firstly, for 5, according to Joachim, the richest and most seductive of the 4.
No objections.
Yeah.
Haydn.
No, that's Bruch. Secondly, this one, which vies in seriousness with the Beethoven, he says. Come on.
Pass.
That was by Brahms. And finally, what Joachim named the heart's jewel.
This is Haydn, isn't it? Oh, no, this is definitely Mendelssohn. No, this is definitely
Mendelssohn.
Correct. And it's goodbye from me. Goodbye.